Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Inside Out Conversations, where we explore professional growth from two very important dimensions. Dimension one is the inside, how you manage your emotions, situations, and people, which is self mastery. And the outside dimension, which is how you express yourself and how do people perceive you. And that is how you become a strong personal brand. And the purpose of this conversation is to bring light to various aspects of self mastery and branding. Because true leadership success comes when you take responsibility of your inner transformation and how you're mindful about outward expression. So, with that said, I welcome you to episode 8 of the Inside Out Conversation. I'm your host for the day. I'm Manju Murugesan. I'm a mindset and a peak performance coach. And today I'm going to be in conversation with our personal branding guru, Mr. Charan, who is the co founder of youEx Consulting Service. Hey, Charan, welcome to the show.
Hey Manju, how have you been?
I'm awesome. How have you been?
I've been wonderful, but I can't be better than you because of the aura behind you.
Thanks to the sunlight. Okay, so Charan, the last episode we spoke about the why behind your brand, why clarity is important and it comes before visibility, right? And today is going to be an extension of that conversation. The why is the vision of the brand. Why does the brand even exist, right? Now, how do we convert that into a voice, which is the brand expression? So, from vision to voice is going to be the conversation today, so that the brand is aligned with the deeper purpose with which why it exists, right? So, with that said, I'm ready to grill you with a bunch of questions, and I have some really exciting questions for you today. And I hope you're all set for that as well.
Bring it on, I'm waiting.
Okay, wonderful. So, the first section, let's enter into it. Charan, we have already spoken about clarity. Now, what does it mean to get that clarity into expression? And as a brand consultant, what does the brand voice really mean? Let's start with the basics.
So you asked me two things. So where do we start?
Your choice.
See, when it comes to bringing clarity into expression, there are a lot of aspects to it. The first thing is about how is my personality in first place,
Mm-hmm.
and the personality about what I am as a person. Even though a lot of people know about us over the years working with us, but nobody knows us better than us. So,
Right.
what are our signatures, or what are our, if I may use the terminology, version of the person that we are in expressing ourselves to a public forum? We need to make sure that the clarity that we have in our mind about ourselves, we are putting it into expression bit by bit in our body language, on in our language, or in the topics, or in whatever the ways that we are expressing. That's where it
Mm-hmm.
starts.
Okay. And what does brand voice mean to you as a brand consultant?
See, brand voice is typically a very common term. Okay. Usually the brand voice as a term is associated with a business. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I'm telling that is, um, people already have a voice. Okay, whether they express it or not, they have a voice. But brand
Right.
is basically a entity. Okay,
Right.
the reason brand is considered to have a voice is just like people express themselves on what they like, what they don't like, and how they go about doing things. Brands
Mm-hmm.
also take a stand on what's the way they operate, what is the price point at which they provide a product or a service, what are the things that they stand for, the culture that they build. So all of these come together and form the identity of the brand, and how they express that becomes the brand voice. So for a
Becomes brand.
person, it is more like your personal voice moved into expression. A brand voice is more to do with how are we creating a voice similarly for a brand or for a company.
That's beautiful. That's beautifully put. At an individual perspective and at the perspective of an organization, how it represents as a brand. Now, let us come back to discussing about the personal brand creation for leaders, right? So, why do so many leaders know what they believe and they know what they stand for, they know their why, but they still struggle to express it in a way that it connects with their audience? The brand resonance or how they relate with the audience is missing. Why do you think that happens?
So there are two parts to this. Part number one is, um, who's your audience?
Mm-hmm.
You first need to be aware of who your audience is. Okay. See, for example, if I am a person who is looking out to progress my career through building my personal brand, I'm in a leadership position, and probably I'm two levels below the CX role. uh, I want to move the ladder further and move the growth into another organization with a higher position. Okay. So if that is my objective, then I need to make sure that whatever I am putting out about myself as my domain authority, as my domain expertise,
Mm-hmm.
need to resonate with the people who are in a position to hire me in the future for that kind of a role. So you're going to talk about something to the people who are going to notice you and consider you for the position that you're looking to grow into. So that defines your audience. So depending on what experience that you are in and who that audience is for you, that you're defining for yourself, that is first part of it. The second part of it is, now that the audience is defined, who is the audience that is defined, the next part comes to, how are we going to break it down in a way that it resonates with the audience. What am I saying? Break it down in a way it resonates with the audience. I'll go to another example. Okay. So let's say, I'm very fond of taking this example of doctors because that's very easy to illustrate. Okay.
Mm.
So if I'm going to a doctor, okay, and I have a concern in my body, and the doctor says in a term which only a peer doctor can understand, then it is not going to make any difference to me on what my problem is. So, as far as the doctor is concerned, his target audience is a patient. So, when the doctor needs to explain something for the patient to understand, it needs to be broken down into simpler ways where the patient understands. If the doctor talks in very technical terms, then the patient is going to feel more frightened rather than
Right.
more reassured. So, the two parts that I mentioned, the part number one is, who's your audience, and then what is the kind of expression that we need to make it to that audience. That's the thing that brings that together.
And beautiful. I think the example made it more understandable, right? Define who's the audience and give them the information which they can consume, right? The idea is to make them understand. Beautifully put. All right. Now, in your experience, say, do you have any examples, be it a company or be it an individual, where by just seeing the words or just reading the words of probably a post or a flyer, you could understand why the brand exists, the purpose of the brand. Have you seen brands like this, and what are they doing differently?
There are a lot of brands. I mean, the simplest of the brand that we can all relate to could be Zomato, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
what they do in terms of the colors, what they do in terms of their emails. When I'm saying emails, the language in the email is very important. They keep sending a lot of emails, but if
Right.
at all, if you go about reading that email, a lot of people resonate with that, and that's why their email campaigns are very successful,
Right.
because they write it in a language which their target audience is able to understand and take action. So they write it in that way. So these are all smaller yet important and powerful things that you need to take care of.
Absolutely. Any big brand did not just come into existence overnight, right? It was built, right? That takes me to the next segment of questions that I want to ask you about is the building blocks of a brand voice. What makes it a brand? So, according to you, as a brand strategist and consultant, what do you think are the core elements of a brand's voice?
So here we're talking again about a leadership positions person's brand voice, right? It's not about a corporate, correct?
Yes, let us keep it to the leaders, and if it is going to be for organization, I'm going to specify because this is such an interesting topic. I have like bunch of questions for you. I run a company myself, so I'm looking at my own branding and my company's branding. So I will definitely ask you both the questions.
Okay. See, for the context of a leader, as I talked about, your audience, and the second thing is about how are you going to break it down to the clarity level of how they can understand.
Right.
And the third aspect of it is who you are as a personality. As I told a little earlier, who you are as a personality. Do you come off as somebody who is very serious, somebody
Hmm.
who's very funny, somebody who is very analytical, somebody who is very analogical? How are you as a person? And you need to combine it with all these things. And the last part of it is, what is the most comfortable medium of expression when you're
Hmm.
looking at expressing yourself? See, for some people, uh, speaking in front of a camera is an easy cake. But if you ask them to write down a few lines, they go blank. But for some other people, it's the other way around. You ask them to write down, they can pen down their thoughts like just like river flowing. Okay.
Right.
If you put a camera in front of them and ask them to express the same thing what they just wrote down on their own, they find jitters. Okay. So depending on, again, this connects to a lot more to your personality only. Okay.
Hmm.
So you need to put all of these aspects together, and that forms your voice, and that forms the angle through which you can express yourself. That's the way to go about it.
Beautiful. You explain the different, pillars which can come together so that you create somebody or position somebody as a brand. Now that leads me to the next question. See, there are a lot of leaders who want to create a brand image, or a personal brand, or a brand voice. Interchangeably, let's use these terms in this episode. How do they make sure that it looks authentic? I think I've had this discussion with you in many instances, because authenticity is very important in my work and your work also. So that, like just you said, if the person is funny or if the person is serious, they cannot create a very different perception to the audience, right? So how can they go about building an authentic brand without being too over polished, or there's a lot of formulas on how a personal brand should be, not just going via the formula. How do people create an authentic brand? That's my simple question, but I kind of explained it.
See, the process to create an authentic brand is, as I told, about what are the components of a brand voice, right? So these are the components of a brand voice. So creating of an authentic brand is basically a string of actions that you take consistently in putting yourself out in a lot of expressions. Like it could be a video post, it could be a simple post that just talks in text, or it could be a poster for a particular topic that you are wanting to convey. So on and so forth. Okay. So the authenticity is built over a period of time. See, you may feel i I represent what I am really feeling in the public domain, but one
Mhm.
post will not be able to, or a few posts or a few content pieces will not be able to make people resonate with what is your what you call as identity fabric. Okay. So it takes a stream of things. Then it is not just about us putting out content. We also see, because whatever the medium that we are looking at, right, it could be Instagram, it could be LinkedIn, whatever the medium, it is not a unidirectional thing where I keep putting, people just keep consuming. No, it doesn't work that way. If you are a brand, like for example selling a product or a service, as a company, it may be in a lot of ways keep putting out things and not responding and reacting to what others say. But if you are an individual, building that authenticity is also about contributing to somebody else who's putting out something in the platform. So if somebody is putting out a topic or a content, it could be your peer group, or it could be somebody who you look up to, or it could be somebody who's looking up to you. It could be anybody. Okay. So you contribute to that conversation in some way or the other. That is very important, and that's all part of the way it creates the authenticity around you.
Right. Authenticity, the word itself means real. So being real at every point of time, but also being strategic and being very consistent is the takeaway that I have. Like how you consistently keep showing up with that kind of an energy. Wonderful. Now, when people set out to create a personal branding for themselves or for their company, I think there are two different ways in which they think out of the understanding that I have right now. One is they look at something aspirational or they look at something which is relatable, right? I am very convinced that it has to be relatable. But what is your take on aspirational versus relatable? And why do you think people take both the stance?
See, actually, aspirational versus relatable doesn't necessarily have to be like this versus that. I mean, you can only have this or you cannot have this. No,
Right.
those are not like two sides of the coin. Like either it is tails or heads. No, you can
Mhm.
see relatability is a fundamental building block. It needs to be
Right.
relatable. As I told you with the doctor example, if the doctor cannot explain me, if I'm a patient, if he cannot explain me, it is not relatable.
Yes.
Okay, but then if I need to create content that is relatable, that's the basic thing. So whom am I looking at putting out my thoughts to? Who should it resonate with? And is it relatable to them? So that's one aspect of it. Aspirational, there are a lot of ways to look at aspirational. See, because aspirational is a term, but then the means to decode that term varies differently for different people. For somebody, aspirational is putting themselves out as a thought leader. That is aspirational. For
Right.
somebody is aspirational is getting on the higher positions in their organization. That is aspirational. For somebody landing a new job with a better position, that is aspirational. For somebody starting something on their own, probably 2 years down the line or 3 years down the line, that is aspirational. So what is aspirational? It is different for different people, but what is
Hmm.
relatable should be consistent amongst all of these people. What is aspirational, depending on their aspirations, it can be, and it is not this versus this. Both of it should work together, actually.
That's wonderful. So, relatable is the hygiene aspect of it. We can't really negotiate it and we keep building onto it, and aspirational differs based on where the person wants to go. That's wonderful. Now, the next question is a very serious question I have, and I've been having this thought for quite some time when I have been thinking about creating my own personal brand in different platforms. See, can a brand have multiple voices for different platforms? Say, if you consider me as a coach, coaching is such a wide bracket and there are different category of people that we can reach out to. They are the target audience, so there are a lot of businesses like mine. So can we have different voices in different platforms, say targeting different people?
See, the voice is all about you and is also about whom you want it to resonate with, right?
Hmm.
For example, um, let's take the comparison between LinkedIn as a platform and Instagram as a platform. Okay,
Right.
the modes of expression, by the way the platform itself is designed, LinkedIn is suitable for the mode of expression on a written format.
Hmm.
The modes of expression for Instagram as a platform is for the AV format or the visual format. Okay, so just looking at the difference in format itself for the respective platforms, even if it is going to be for the same target audience, you need to see how to go about positioning things on the same, even if it is for the same set of target audience. If somebody who's, let's say, if you're wanting to write something where a CEO can look at what you're sharing and appreciate. Okay, let's say the CEO is on both the platforms. He's on LinkedIn as well as he's on Instagram.
Mm.
The amount of time the CEO tends to spend for consuming something on LinkedIn is very different for the amount of time he or she spends on Instagram.
Instagram,
Instagram
right.
is Instagram is more like fast food consumption. LinkedIn is more like a platter. So when you are serving to a community who's looking for a platter, if you are going to give a fast food, probably they will consume, but then it is not really the desired consumption. And the same the other way, if you're going to put very heavy text content on Instagram, nobody is going to consume. They just want to have a quick bite or quick drink and move on. So that's the mode of consumption, and just that itself will vary in terms of how you're expressing your personal brand's voice across different
Right.
platforms.
Right. So platforms are designed in a certain way on certain consumption, so be respectful to that and create content accordingly. Wonderful, wonderful. So with that said, we'll move into the next segment of questioning, and I'm very excited for that as well. So here we are transitioning the vision into expression. So once somebody has defined their why, and how do they convert it into consistent communication? Even before you said consistently putting things out there and being authentic was a statement told by you. So how do they consistently create content around a similar subject? Sometimes the subject might be very small. How do we avoid repetition and consistently speak about the same thing?
See, one of the aspects when we talk about authenticity and consistency, one of the aspects that I truly believe is to being opinionated.
Mm-hmm.
The person, whatever the domain or the experience that they are in a leadership role or in a senior management role or at the helm of running a company, okay, they need to be clearly opinionated. When I'm saying opinionated, it doesn't mean like you're fighting.
Mm-hmm.
Means that whatever the topic that you are wanting to talk about or write about, okay, you need to take a stand. Either I am, if the topic is around, for example, I mean, I'm not going into a leadership being in a position of writing about or talking about cricket, okay, but then let's say if somebody is in a position as a cricket commentator, for example, okay, a cricket commentator, if they want to continue to build their personal brand, then the commentator need to take a stand on a given particular scenario. What happened in the Asia Cup finals between India and Pakistan with respect to their on-field what you call dynamics with respect to sportsmanship. So the commentator cannot be like what they are doing is right, what India is doing is also correct in their own view, what Pakistan is also doing is correct in their own view. They cannot simply keep uh, batting on both sides. They need to take a stand. Of course, if when you take a stand and when you're opinionated, there are people who will come and support you, there are people who are going to stand against you, which is
Right.
fine. When you take a stand on one day on one side, on the other day on the other side, nobody is going to stand with you. So
Correct.
the alternative to taking a stand or being opinionated is to be considered as a person who has no opinion. So that is very important there. So when we are looking at constructing consistently, okay, and authenticity again is around standing to that opinion. Okay, this
Right.
person, when it comes to this topical authority, he bats for this. I'll take Elon Musk for example. Okay, Elon
Mm.
Musk, he is a strong vocal opponent of the technology called lidar. It is used for mapping out the vision of automated vehicles. He is
Mm-hmm.
a very strong opponent of using lidar as a technology. See, he may have his views on something else, but he's very clear. He'll say, I don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
And he will have his own reasons. Of course, when Elon Musk says, it doesn't mean that the whole world agrees with him or he's always right. But then he stands, he takes an opinion. When the whole world says something about a particular technology, if he doesn't believe in that, he will go as per his belief. But the point to understand is he's very opinionated. And that's why people like him for what he is.
I think that's a very valid point, which also gives an insight on how a person should be having a personality, right? When a person has a personality, they have clear distinctions, right? Okay, this is something that I favor. This is something that I don't really support. We have like moral ethical constructs, right? So that way. In every kind of interaction, we are also putting it out so people also know who we are, what we stand for, and that's also how a brand gets built. That was a beautiful example, Charan. Okay, now say if a leader is consistently communicating their thoughts and ideologies outside, and sometimes people tend to sound preachy or say self promotional. What are your thoughts about it?
Of course, people tend to become that way. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, when you are building your personal brand in an authentic manner, people will be able to understand where you are coming from if you are being preachy.
Hmm.
If it is
Right.
not authentic, then people will think, oh, okay, he's telling this as if he is good at it, because they don't know you. You have not expressed yourself in a very relatable manner or in a very honest manner, so they don't
Right.
know you. So when they know you, and when you get preachy for whatever the aspect of which you are, they will look at, okay, what is this guy preaching about? um, what is his authority on that topic? Okay, he has expressed himself to be having a bit of competency and credibility around it. Yeah, he gets to, we can get to understand that he can be preachy.
Okay, so there's understanding in preachiness also, where people accept the preachiness. That's a very interesting, that's a very interesting take. Now, see, as a consultant, you would have seen multiple examples where people, there is a perfect expression of the brand voice, and what changed for them professionally. You can just give me an example based on a change that your clientele have seen, and also give me an inverse example where a brand's voice and actions didn't align. What was the professional consequence? See, sometimes we just look at it overall from a from a no good point of view when it comes to branding, or even when it comes to coaching. But when we apply something, and I think our Indian audience especially, we always want to know the benefits, how far it can go, or what are the dangers and risks. So can you just give me both the examples, good and bad?
See, when it comes to, for example, somebody putting out something and that is not aligning, okay, in a lot of ways, the problem happens with respect to the misalignment between my target audience and how my target audience is able to consume what I'm putting. So sometimes people miss out on the mark of who their target audience is, and they just keep blabbing, blabbing, blabbing. Okay. And when we ask the simple question of who are you writing this for? Who do you think should consume this content? They will have somebody in
Mm,
their mind. Okay, now put yourself in the shoes of the person who you think is the audience for this, and try to read this or try to listen to this. Do you think they
mm,
could relate to this? If that self exercise is done, then that
mm.
helps us, that helps them bring things into particular direction in a right way. So this is more to do with one of the aspects of it. The second aspect of it, your audience is, you know who your audience is, but then you're again not able to express it in a right way to that audience. What happens in this, I can take the example of a doctor again. Okay, so there might be a doctor who's so good when he is talking to the patient. He's a fantastic doctor. Okay, but then let's say if the doctor is wanting to build their personal brand, then the doctor is going to go on a platform like Instagram and wants to build credibility around himself. Okay, then the doctor, because they are not talking to a patient, they sometimes tend to forget that they still need to appeal to the patient. You may be
Right.
looking at the camera and speaking, but who's going to consume your content? It is still going to be the patient. So you may be in a position to show the right expression or use the right terminologies and the words when you are actually dealing with the patient. But when you're probably coming on camera, you're unable to remember that you're still talking to the patient, and you go about speaking as if you're speaking at a doctor's conference. It gets too
Right.
technical and people don't resonate with it. We see a lot of content like that, especially from people who are in specialized professional space, like doctors, lawyers, accountants, those kind of people.
Right. So the whole idea of putting themselves out there is to reach the end target audience, so that there is understandability. So somewhere we start with that as the objective, and we forget the whole objective, and that doesn't make sense as to why are we even putting that kind of an effort. So again and again, I really like how the conversation is circling around having a clarity of what we stand for, what we want, and how we can strategically break things down and put ourselves out there, and remembering the whole purpose throughout the roadmap that makes for a successful brand is how I understand based on our conversation, right? Now, I have one last question. I have like multiple questions there. Maybe I'll just fit it in other episodes. But I want to ask this question. See, when somebody decides to create a personal brand for themselves, and they are in the journey of creating a personal brand for say a couple of years, and in these 2 years they have already understood the clarity is important, the roadmap, the vision, and the destination. Everything is important. So, and the person also evolves, and then the vision also changes. So what is your input for people who are at that juncture, where they are also evolving as a person, the vision is evolving, so how do they
See,
approach branding?
it is a natural progression only. See, we talked about being authentic. We talked about being consistent. We talked about appealing to your target audience. We talked about expressing it in a way which is very relatable to the way you are as a person, right? See, all of these are there. Okay. When you are starting to do this, okay, as your journey evolves or as your journey progresses, you will also go about progressing in the way you share things or you express things. That's a natural progression. To be very honest, you don't have to specifically put a tab on that. When you are doing consistently, you will grow to the point that you are able to grow your expression of your brand as well. So that's a consistent progression that keeps happening.
That's wonderful. So eventually, all of us keep, navigating towards that direction. Now, I wanted to wrap it up, but then I really have to ask you this question. See, a lot of people are marching towards creating an unforgettable brand. There's a lot of efforts which goes into it. Now, how can somebody make for a magnetic brand? Say, people get attracted to it. You can close it with a solid punch.
Okay, so I'm going to break that bubble for you. Okay,
Okay.
there is when it comes to talking about authenticity and building trust. Okay, there is nothing called as a magnetic brand. Okay, your authenticity is the one that is actually building the magnet around you. I can take you back to the conversation what we had in our earlier discussion where I
Hmm.
quoted Rani Ralabadia, the same example. Okay, so the reason people retaliated against what he did was they were attracted to his authenticity in a particular way. See, I'm not getting into the front of whether that is the way he is or he constructed it to be that way. That is his own. People who know him in real versus people who see him on digital medium, they will be able to resonate to that. Okay,
Right,
all
right.
the people who are seeing Ranveer Alabadia in a digital platform, um, the reason that they resonated very strongly against him when he went on another platform was because of that fact that they were attracted to him for certain authenticity and values that he was holding for a longer period of time consistently. And when that broke, that happened. So the same thing.
Right. Probably it was him that the retaliation was so strong because people have seen him and understood him in a certain construct, right?
Probably
Wonderful.
there
I
were
think
a
you
lot of
broke
people
that.
who were attracted to him, but not in the right sense. They were attracted to him to punch him in his face, but then he had to make corrections to it. So if you think that is the magnetism that you are mentioning, no, that's not
No,
magnetism.
no, that wasn't the magnetism that I was mentioning, and I'm really glad you did end it up with a punch, saying that there is no magnetic branding like that. Build it around consistency and get the basics right, and remember the basics towards the end, till the end. That's what is the primary takeaway that we had, and I think it was a brilliant, brilliant conversation where vision meets expression. It is not just important to have a vision, but how it culminates into a brand voice and people trying to understand us by our the outward projections is very, very important. So thank you so much for this brilliant episode, Charan. Scan this QR, you can reach out to Charan's LinkedIn, and you can have a conversation with him about the branding queries that you have.
Okay.
And with that said, let us now ask Charan. Okay, Charan, so what's gonna happen in the next episode?
Okay, so as we do this role reversals, in the last episode of where I interviewed you, we touched upon an important aspect of emotional quotient versus intelligence quotient, and we did a lot of things related to understanding the difference, etc. So now I want to step back a little bit. Okay, I'm not getting deeper into the emotions or the intelligence aspect of it, but I just want to step back a little bit and talk about, there are a lot of doubts especially leaders have in their mind. Okay,
Mhm.
so how do they streamline the way they look at themselves when they have doubts, and how do
Mhm.
they turn these doubts into actions of clarity to drive decisions in their respective journeys. So this is a
Right.
little bit of a step back from what we did last time. This is not more personal, but it is more topical, but still I feel this is more relevant, because a lot of people have doubts about a lot of things in their life, especially when they are in positions of decision making.
Right. Sounds interesting. I'm sure we're going to have a very interesting conversation. So I'm really looking forward for it. And thank you so much for everybody who has been attending this live. And it is a pleasure to enlighten you with the knowledge that we have in our respective streams. And we look forward to catching up with you in the next session next Sunday. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye bye.